Hey friends, welcome back. Today we are going to talk about something that shapes your entire reality, yet most people never even notice it. That's running in the background and quietly limiting your wealth, your joy, your freedom, and your sense of possibility. And there is one program that's everywhere, a collective myth, a cultural belief that almost everybody has heard. And it goes like this. Rich people are rich because they worked harder than everyone else. Sounds familiar, right? You've heard it in interviews. Someone asks a millionaire or celebrity, "What's your secret to success?" And the person says, "Well, I worked hard, I took responsibility, I never gave up, and yada yada yada." And you nod along, because that's what you're supposed to say. But let's be honest for a second. What else could they say? Imagine if they looked straight into the camera and said, "Honestly, I don't know why I made it and you didn't. Maybe it's something in my upbringing, something invisible." That wouldn't make a great headline, would it? But there's an issue. A lot of people work insanely hard. Some work 2 jobs, some do 16-hour shifts, some sleep 5 hours a night just to keep food on the table. If hard work automatically led to wealth, they would all be billionaires. But they are not, which means the whole hard work equals wealth equation doesn't add up. Let me ask you this, how many people do you personally know who work really hard and still barely make ends meet? Teachers, nurses, construction workers, delivery drivers, probably more than a few. And on the other hand, how many people do you know who don't seem to break their back every day, yet live very comfortably? That gap is the myth we're talking about right now. The belief that the secret is simply to work harder. And believing that myth keeps millions of people locked in the cycle that will never bring them what they actually want. So what's really going on here? Here's the truth. People aren't driven by what they consciously say or think. They are driven by subconscious programs. Think of your mind like a computer. On your screen you see apps like Word, Photoshop, or your browser. But beneath that interface is an entire operating system, countless background processes, layers of code, and even deeper, the firmware that connects directly with the hardware. You don't see it, you don't think about it, but it's controlling everything. And in the same way, when you see someone who is successful, you only see their interface. They tell you about discipline, responsibility, hustle, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath, in their subconscious programming, is where the real difference lives. Here's where it gets really interesting. If you look at most people who have achieved massive success, you will find they grew up in an environment where success was normal. Their parents were not always wealthy, but they were often educated, respected, creative, or influential. Maybe their dad was a professor, maybe their mom was a doctor or ran a business, maybe their family valued art, learning, or leadership. It wasn't always about money, it was about mental inheritance. And they inherited programs like "My ideas matter," or "I deserve respect," or "Wealth is natural," or "Opportunities are always available." And those programs run silently in the background, guiding their decisions, raising their standards, shaping their confidence. Meanwhile, most people grow up with completely different programs. Programs like "you have to work twice as hard to get half as much," "life is a struggle," "don't relax or you will fall behind," "enjoyment is dangerous." So a teacher who makes $30,000 a year is working just as hard as the millionaire entrepreneur. A security guard working 24-hour shifts is putting in just as much effort as an investor. But because their subconscious program says hard work equals survival, not wealth, their results will always reflect that. And when you ask them, "How do I become rich?" they will say, "Work harder," because that's the only program they know. And that's the trap. And it's not limited to money. Take relationships. Some women are told if you depend on a man financially, it will only be with someone unattractive, controlling, or unfaithful. So even if they meet a kind, generous man, their programming pushes them away. Or men are told if you want more money, you will have to grind until you are burnt out. Because that's what being a provider means. So they avoid wealth because they equate it with exhaustion. These are invisible programs, silent rules, and they shape entire lives without people even noticing. Now here is the hopeful part. Programs can be rewritten. Look at genuinely wealthy people. Are they grinding 24/7? No. They rest, they recharge, they enjoy life, they invest in themselves. They use business as a tool, not as their whole identity. They know how to play with energy, creativity, and freedom. They know that relaxation is part of the formula, not a threat. But most people are told the opposite. Don't enjoy yourself. Don't slow down. If you relax, you will fail. That's another program, and it keeps them trapped. So what's the solution? There's a few steps. Step 1. You have to realize these myths are not truth. It's just someone else's voice installed in your mind. Step 2. Identify which ones are running you. And step 3. Rewrite them. I've done this myself, and I had all the garbage beliefs you can imagine. Money is dirty, wealth is only for workaholics, relationships always end in betrayal. And you know what happened when I swapped those out? The same actions started producing different results. I didn't suddenly win the lottery, but I simply began noticing opportunities I would ignore before. I felt confident asking for more. I let myself enjoy the process, and my reality shifted. Now let me tell you something important. Over the past decade, I've been collecting, dissecting, and reprogramming these subconscious codes. I've built a kind of library of the exact programs that limit people and the replacements that create freedom. And I made it accessible inside nextmindproject.com. It's not a motivational fluff, okay? It's not positive thinking. It's literally a structured way to see the faulty code running in your head, rip it out and replace it with something that works. Once you do that, you stop fighting against yourself. You stop grinding harder and harder for the same results. You start living in a completely different reality. The one you have always felt was possible but couldn't quite access. Think of it this way, 90% of what drives your life is unconscious programming. If those programs were written around scarcity, struggle, or fear, then no matter how hard you consciously push, the unconscious wins anyway. But if those programs were written around freedom, abundance, joy, and self-worth, then success feels inevitable. And the good news is, you don't need rich patterns. You don't need lucky breaks. And you don't need to wait for someone else to rescue you. You can rewrite the code yourself. That's exactly what we do inside nextmindproject.com. So here's the bottom line. Hard work alone doesn't create wealth. Otherwise, the hardest workers in society would be the richest. What truly creates wealth is the invisible programming that runs your choices, your confidence, and your perception of opportunity. Those programs were written in you by family, culture, media, often without your consent. But you can change them, and when you do, your whole reality shifts. If you've ever wondered why others succeed while you stay stuck, maybe it's not about working harder at all. Maybe it's about upgrading the system you are running on. And that's what we do step by step inside nextmindproject.com. Because your life doesn't need another grind, it needs a new program. Thank you for listening.